you check the children? Your little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird,
Robert Wolfman.
and we are here to do a late night review of an upcoming movie that honestly is not a horror movie. Let's be real. It's not a horror movie.
No, because that's actually the thing. Is like I was expecting a completely different movie than what we got.
Mm-hmm.
It was still fun. It was
I don't
fun.
know.
It was fun for the most part.
It definitely was about what I expected. I was hoping, based on the trailer, that we were going to get some other aspects of some things based on the director, but unfortunately, in my opinion, it was a pretty straight-laced, straight story that, is not something that's wholly unique from what we've seen before. Getting into the overall thoughts, obviously. Well, first saying we're talking about Nightmare Alley,
Exactly.
directed by Guillermo Del Toro.
Will credit though. This is a remake of an original. I can't remember.
A 1940s movie,
Was
yeah,
it?
called
Okay.
Nightmare Alley, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
It is a remake, so yes,
Yeah.
you gotta understand that it is not something that is a unique vision of Guillermo del Toro, but it is directed by Guillermo del Toro, and it stars Bradley Cooper and Rooney Mara. So a couple of powerhouses backed up by a number of, other powerhouses in
Ron
the
Perlman, Willem Dafoe,
supporting
Kate
acting role.
Kate
Yep.
Blanchett, a bunch of them.
Tons of people, character actors from various things, an amazing cast, quite frankly. And it was a gorgeous movie. It was a tremendously acted movie, but it was a long slice of boring for a long way through the movie, unfortunately, in my opinion. Like, the great acting and the great filmmaking just doesn't make up for the long-winded story that I just felt like I had seen before. So that's kind of my overall thoughts. Robert, how did you fall?
That's pretty much where I'm at too. It's like, again, everything looked great. Visuals were amazing. The acting was great. But even like what Cecil just said, like, it was way too long for what we got.
It's like a 2.5-hour movie.
Exactly. And this literally could have been shaved off a good solid 45.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually.
It could have been condensed and it would have made for a much better film.
Well, here's the thing. It would have changed the film. It would have rushed the film a little bit.
It would have.
This definitely wasn't paced poorly because I never.
It just
I started to
way
yes.
too badly in the second act.
The first
Way
time I
too
checked
badly.
my watch was an hour and 5 minutes into the movie,
Okay.
and it is like a 2.5-hour movie.
Uh-huh.
So I checked again at that point about every half hour.
Okay.
And so I think I checked it 3 more times, and I was like, okay. But I wasn't like mad at the movie. I was like, it's a very self-indulgent movie for the story they're trying to tell. They really take their time, and like you, I felt like it overstayed its welcome.
Most definitely. And don't get me wrong, like you were supposed to be able to like sit there and look at the movie and everything that's going on in the in the front, in the background, like everything.
Foreground, background, midground,
like,
all of it.
Well, we'll get to it like basically with the set stuff, but that really was the shining point of this movie.
Yeah, the set design.
It
It's
really
set
was.
between 1939 and 1941. So it is definitely a period piece. It is just as the war is breaking out, and World War II, I should say. And most people, I would think, would know what war I'm referring
jump into
to.
the story real quick, and then
Yeah, why don't we?
Yeah.
So basically, yes, it is set in that time frame, and the story is about Bradley Cooper, who is this grifter, essentially, that joins a carnival and sort of creates a grift, takes the position of, quick talking, sort of what they call mind read. Was it not mind reader?
crap,
God, what is the word that they use? Mentalist.
Yes.
Yeah. So he joins as a mentalist, and there's a girl played by Rooney Mara that works there who, basically does this electricity act, and they grow this friendship, and it's about how they sort of try and figure out how to get more out of the patrons to the carnival. There's all these characters that are played by those tremendous actors we mentioned earlier. You have Willem Dafoe, you have Ron Perlman.
And what's cool, I'll definitely say with this, like each one of those characters, whether small enough or semi-lengthy screen time, they all had a really good backstory with each character. And they
played their parts very well. They felt like full roles.
Exactly. And again, you had brief little tidbits on their backstory, but it's still fleshed out enough with the context of what we got in the interactions, where it felt it fit really well. Nobody felt out of place on that.
I agree with you. Everyone acquitted themselves fantastically as far as that goes. But then the movie doesn't stay there. It moves along, and Bradley Cooper and Rooney Mara move along to sort of bigger and better things, so to speak, for people in their line of work. A bigger grift, and Bradley Cooper gets involved in more and more high-stakes grift, leading to one specific high-stakes grift where he is called into action by a very rich man who is trying to get information about his dead wife, that there are some sinister backstory to that Bradley Cooper is slowly finding out, and it's this big con, and if it goes wrong, a lot of stuff goes wrong. And so, considering it's a movie, guess what happens?
Yeah, without spoiling everything.
Without spoiling, again, guess what happens?
Yeah, because this comes out with December 17th, right?
Right, yeah. So this review is coming a little bit early here. Yeah. We're not spoiling anything, but, I mean, again, it has to be a movie, and so therein lies the movie. So
yeah. I will definitely say, just, like, it's worth checking out. It definitely is, especially for if you're a Del Toro fan and you like his visual work that he does.
Just manage your expectations.
Exactly.
It's not your typical Guillermo Del Toro movie.
Not at all.
It actually, to me, it's not unlike when Fuego and I saw last night in Soho. In the review, I said it felt like the least Edgar Wright movie of all of the Edgar Wright movies. This kind of felt like the least Guillermo Del Toro movie of all the Guillermo Del Toro movies. Only insofar as he doesn't... I
can kind of see that.
It just didn't have a certain style to it. Well, I mean, it did have his style.
It definitely had an interesting style.
But it just didn't have the fantasy element that I'm used to with his movies.
Yeah, and I think
really elevate.
Yeah, and I think that's where definitely going into it, expecting more of the...
Hoping
for.
But again, now knowing that it's a remake of another movie, I can't really hold it against it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, as far as the acting goes... Sorry, this is bothering me. Sorry, sweetie. You had a hair on your hat that was going to bother me in editing. I know it. Basically, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, so, the acting, everyone was amazing. Especially, like, Willem Dafoe, he was a sleazy little guy.
Dude, but his acting is, like, for the little bit that we got him, like, his, like, he does these head turns and his smiles.
Yeah, and one set dialogue, too.
This dude that knows how to use his
especially facial. how he delivered it in the dining hall to what we got near the end. Like, you just think back of how he delivered that, and you're just like, damn, that was actually pretty good foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Like I kind of dug on that. Like that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, again, I know what you're referring to now. Yeah, it's an interestingly structured movie, so you got to give it at least that. I mean, it's just manage your expectations. This is a drama with some aspects of thriller thrown in. Again, it's not really horror at any point, but there are some thrilling beats, but it is mostly a drama. It is mostly a period piece drama that has to do with someone that claims to be able to speak to the dead.
Yeah, and Bradley Cooper is amazing.
He's really good.
Like,
Dude,
he's always a
there's a portion of the
actor.
movie, I'm not going to say the context, but there's a portion of the movie where he's all but unrecognizable.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's so crazy.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that on the card.
Right, I'm just trying to be coy about it.
No, I got you. Yeah, I'm just trying to get on the same page.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm referring to. He's all but unrecognizable.
Exactly. It was some pretty good makeup work, I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good segue into the makeup and special effects.
Touch on any acting real quick?
That's a good point. Thank you. No, the acting was all... I mean, I figure when we mentioned the sort of acting talent that we had involved, it was an allusion to the fact that, the acting is outstanding in this film.
It won't be lacking.
There's no shortcoming as far... There's, like, no weak link in this chain mail.
No, there's no shortcomings, but there is a short guy in this.
That's true. That's true. the self-proclaimed shortest man in the world.
Yeah,
even though you
right.
know that's a little bit of a stretch.
Maybe for the time.
maybe so. But nonetheless, everyone plays their role fantastically. There's no one that pulls you out of the story. The only one who I might say got a little ham at times was Cate Blanchett. I feel like her squinty-eyed kind of face was overplayed a few times.
Well, especially towards the ending, the ending
Mm-hmm.
few conflicts.
Yeah,
I can definitely concur with that.
She overplayed her hand just a few times, and in fact, one time it's played into the story where she's even like too much. But yeah, literally leading up to that, there are a few times where I'm like, that's too much.
Fair enough.
And I've never really thought that about Cate Blanchett before, and it's not that she's weak in this or anything, but there's a couple of moments where I'm like, you're pushing it a little bit. You know what I mean?
Maybe it's just because like the old noir style he was kind of going for that.
I suppose that could be true. I suppose she's trying to
was
fit
kind of that semi like
contextually
oversell with the emotions.
Maybe so. Maybe you may be right. You may be right.
Because even still, you look at each one of the characters, especially even like Ron Perlman and whatnot. Like there was kind of some oversells even on him, just on the strongman kind of stuff.
Only insofar as I feel like we didn't have enough backstory to understand why he was as protective as he was.
Yeah, well,
it's not that his acting didn't get it across; it's that we just didn't have that information.
Well, yeah, he only briefly touched on it for a couple lines.
Just barely. But I get your point. I get your point. Now, again, talking about the filmmaking, it is phenomenally made. I mean, Guillermo definitely knows how to tell a story visually.
Yep.
And we get that. It's just, how interested are you in the story is how interested you're going to be in this movie. Because it's not like he does anything super crazy behind the camera this time around.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, do you remember any particular time where there was like a unique camera move
Not
or anything
necessarily,
like that?
it was just
you know what I mean? Not to say there's no unique camera moves. It's just there's nothing that sticks out in my mind that oftentimes do from a Guillermo movie.
I'd say maybe we had a couple shots maybe in the latter of the third act. Especially after a certain chase sequence.
Sure.
There was a couple nice little shots in there, but other than that, it was more of just basic visual style shots.
But is there going to be any real keystone moments where if someone's like, dude, tell me the coolest part of Nightmare Alley, are you going to be able to be like, because to me, I'd be like, there's not really any particular moment that's awesome.
I'm like, the movie looked pretty.
Yeah, there you go.
The movie looked pretty.
It is. It's a very pretty 2021 version of an old-timey sort of noir movie with color.
Like
you know?
Especially too, there's one set I want to highlight. It's the Funhouse.
Yeah, that was cool.
The Funhouse.
It felt a little small though, didn't it? Like it felt like it was one short tunnel and that was it.
Did we see the entire?
No, I don't. Well, I'm hoping not. But we only really. Because what we saw could have comprised one long tunnel, and that would be it.
It's possible. But either way, that was cooler of the other fucking fun houses I've ever seen.
I agree. That felt Guillermo Del Toro.
Where the hell were those fun houses when I was a kid?
Unfortunately, that was about 6 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
In a 2.5 hour.
Well, hey, you asked what?
No, you're right.
What scene popped out?
You caught me. You caught me. You had a scene that popped out. Good for you.
Kiss my ass, you bass.
But all right now, but again, it is still a fantastically presented film, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it is one of those that the filmmaker knows what they're doing. It's a well-told story. Again, the effects are good. The acting is phenomenal. The sound design is well done. The music wasn't overplayed. It all boils down to how interested are you in the story. And I just got bored of the story because it didn't feel as unique. Like it felt like a mishmash of a number of different things, not the least of which being The Illusionist.
Well, yeah.
Like those movies, that came out around that time.
Well, yeah, you have your basically kind of a carnival sideshow movie mixed, obviously like your,
then becomes a two-person show movie where it's like the mentalist and his assistant.
Yeah.
And that's just the magician and his assistant that we've seen a number of times. Because there was even some times
that it was alluding to like you get some maybe, especially in the trailer, I was expecting kind of like a big fish kind of feel, but it was definitely
if it's more
again knowing that it was a remake of an original movie.
If I had to liken it to something, I was going to say, what if it's more like The Illusionist meets The Warrens, right? Where it's a possibly fake medium,
Yeah.
but it's also a guy that's up on stage
Yeah.
having to use that
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I feel like that's a good combination. Sort of, if someone's going to ask, what is this? That's maybe what it is, because it's got an aspect of,
I can see, yeah.
is this person a hoax, or do they actually know how to communicate with the other side, mixed in with this noir tale about a con man and his
Exactly,
lady.
yeah.
You know what I
Because
mean?
he's got some demons of himself too.
Truth.
I mean, he's
And
got-
that's, and how interesting was that when
Especially
all of those,
the reveal at the end of like.
well, but all of those flashback scenes,
Mhm.
as brief as they are at times, they're played in reverse, and it's interesting because it's a fire.
Yeah.
And when the fire's going in reverse, you're like, it's so dreamlike.
Well, especially in the.
but it's how he's experiencing his memories.
Well,
you know what I
exactly.
mean?
Like, well,
it's crazy.
that one shot, especially when it was centralized to just the hole
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the center of the house instead of the entire house originally.
Right.
Like that was one of my more favorite shots.
Yeah.
But again, I've said it time and time again, and I'll say it again. I'm a sucker for snow shots.
There's a lot of good stuff.
There, like, well, especially at the end with Richard Jenkins' character.
You know
Like,
what?
those were some really nice shots in that labyrinth
Truth.
garden area.
Truth.
That
Yeah, no,
was
I noticed that as well.
beautiful.
You know what I liked, though, to the snow point, is there was a couple of, well, at least one main scene where Bradley Cooper and Cate Blanchett are talking in her office, and there's a huge window behind them that's got the curtains drawn, but you can see that there's snow falling in the outside behind the curtain still. I'm like, no one usually goes to that depth of detail. They just, if the curtain's drawn, you can't see what's out
Del
the
Toro
window.
does.
I mean, yeah, that's what I'm like. That's the Del
And
Toro spin that you're getting. But it's
that's the one appreciation that I can have for this movie.
That's the little details that he's tweaking to make it feel like a Del Toro movie, instead of like the usual big bombastic
But
things
making
that he
it
does
also
to make
feel
it feel
like
like that.
a real world.
Yeah, you're right.
Like-
That's true. Well, from back then.
Well, exactly. Just bringing life to that world.
I
It
agree.
all goes down to those little details.
When Fuego and I did the last trailer reaction for this, he brought up the fact that it did feel like LA Confidentially.
Yeah,
And
I can
I
see
feel like,
that.
yeah, I could definitely see that it's of the era, even though not quite, but,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
close. It does have that old-timey feel based on all the people that are interacting the whole way, and I really like that. Toni Collette from Hereditary and
She was
dozens and
great.
hundreds of other things. She was phenomenal. The guy that she was working with for so long that's been in so much stuff.
I know,
From
his-
Alphas, the TV
Yeah,
show,
his
to
name
a
is
number of
eluding me right
other
now.
things. He's played the scientist and things before. What else is there to say about Nightmare Alley? It's such a weird mixed bag, right? It's so beautifully presented, but you gotta like the story to care.
Exactly, 'cause that's the issue. You know, even with like the music, like there's nothing even with the score that particularly stuck out to me.
I can't say it's a score that I'll...
It blended very well with the tones and some of the scenes that were going on.
I'll
I
be
will give it
interested
that.
to listen to the score while I'm reading one time to see how it hits then, because quite honestly, I was engrossed with what was on screen, so I wasn't paying as much attention to the score behind it. So again, I guess that's a feather in Del Toro's cap, right? The fact that I'm engaged. I never got... You said you started to get sleepy. I never got sleepy
that
in
was
this
just
one.
because it was starting to get really slow.
I'm not blaming you. No, I'm not blaming you. I'm just
It
saying
was
by
still-
comparison,
yeah.
I recognized that it was a slow film and
Yeah.
I was starting to get bored, but I never got disengaged bored.
Mm-hmm.
I was still like, I want to see where this goes. So I felt that way the whole time. So the movie's engaging, but whether or not you ultimately care is going to be how entrenched with the story you become.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on it?
Not
I think
really
we've
a
pretty
whole
much
lot.
covered it.
Like, if there's anything that really piques your interest in this movie, again, go check it out. It's worth it, especially for a stylistic standpoint.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Visually, like, this movie is amazing looking. It takes a minute to really get those engines going.
I agree.
That's the only issue.
I agree. All right, guys. So thank you very much for watching. If you've watched this far, we greatly appreciate it. If you haven't yet and you are so inclined, go ahead and click the like button and subscribe to the channel. Ding that notification bell. Switch the notifications to on, or all rather, if you want to make sure you don't miss our videos going forward.
You see all of our
There's-
pretty faces.
Yes, exactly. There's still a lot to come in December. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel directly the way that you do. The link to our Patreon is in the description box down below if you want to become one of those lovely people as well. However, until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Robert the Wolfman.
And remember, stay scared.